Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy. And Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, things seem to be escalating with the United States somewhat. Also, the U.S. and Venezuela seem to be escalating. But before we get into that news, I don't want to get censored. So let's do some lighthearted news about Justin Trudeau.
Yes, and DJ Diplo, who you didn't even know who it was.
He was a DJ, I said.
Okay, but you didn't know who it was. But apparently, yes, Diplo, who is an American DJ and music producer, says he dated Justin Trudeau. So once again, we were right from Ryan Girdison.
Well, he also said he dated Katy Perry. So very interesting. I don't know if he was joking or he wasn't joking, but this clip is making the rounds.
But what isn't a joke is that Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau are apparently dating. So evil finds itself, I guess.
Went from a DJ to an astronaut, I guess.
But that place is just a horn.
Oh, I have no sound.
I don't either, but they do. I gotta fix it. Hold on. You talk about Justin Trudeau and how much you hate him while I fix it.
What happened with it?
I have to connect the... Nothing. You just keep talking.
Oh, you unplugged the headphones. Perfect. Okay, well, Justin Trudeau, we actually got another story after Justin Trudeau about blackface, and Justin Trudeau has been the king of blackface multiple times on Halloween. He dressed up with blackface. We'll get back into that story right after this clip here.
Well, it seems like Rafa's in the chat. I'll read your message in a second. So this is for you, Rafa. More technical difficulties.
But that place is just a horny place. That's where Pornhub. It's just a very porny city. Montreal.
Canada, porny. They have a hot prime
Quebec in
minister
general.
now.
And now Katy Perry's dating Justin Trudeau.
I know. Fuck.
It's pretty fire.
I know so many people who like kind of.
Dated Katy Perry like me?
Oh, did you date Katy
Oh, I
Perry?
did.
I meant Trudeau.
Oh, I did date Trudeau too.
Yeah. That's going to go.
That was a
That's
weird
it.
one though.
Really? Why?
Because I'm just not
He's
into,
a prude,
I'm
isn't
not
he?
into politicians.
I call him Prudo. Yeah.
You met him before?
No, I haven't. I think he's hot.
But that place is just a horny.
And yeah, it might. I think he's the kind of guy it's not going to really matter if he says something off the cuff like that, but it could have serious implications for Justin Trudeau.
Yes, hopefully it does.
And especially, I had kind of been speculating that Justin Trudeau was actually dating Katy Perry as a beard, so people wouldn't know his true persuasion, so to say. He recently got a divorce, and there were a ton of rumors swirling around that he was gay at the time, and that's why his wife wanted a divorce. Now, is it true? Is it not? This is just another wrinkle to that Justin Trudeau saga. We'll have to kind of keep it updated, I guess.
Well, aside from the rumors, there's also the rumors that he was with Macron, etc. But if I was his wife, I'd just be embarrassed in general to be with him at all because he tanked the country and now you can't show your face anywhere.
Well, he's looking less and less bad these days because Mark Carney seems to be continuing in the same direction but going even harder. Tomorrow is going to be the budget of Canada, and it's expected to be tens of billions of dollars over budget. It's going to put the country in a very tough predicament there.
Yes, they're releasing the budget for 2026 and it seems, and it's late as well.
No, 2025.
Okay.
So they never
So they are
released the
releasing
budget.
it
They're
late.
almost a year over. They're going to release the budget. The majority of the year is over, and it's going to be time for the new budget. I'm expecting them to redelay it next year.
And Rafa, hello Rafa, thank you for being here. Rafa says, hello, I really hate this country more than ever. He means Mexico, he is in Mexico. And I mean, I've always kind of hated what's going on politically. I love the country, but it's a shame to see it go in this direction. And it's a shame that they continue to use insults that make no sense and pointing fingers at the completely incorrect people. But we'll talk about that in a bit because we don't want YouTube to get mad at us because of the nature of this story.
Yeah, we also got a lot to talk about Catholicism today. Rafa might not be happy about it, but we'll talk about it anyway. Yeah. It was brought up in the context of Christian nationalism, Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson. So let's go into the next story, though. And this one was kind of a lighthearted story as well, just to kind of get through the censors.
Hopefully YouTube doesn't censor us because YouTube might censor us. But this is Brittany Venti saying when that EBT hit. But you know the story. I don't actually know the story fully. So.
Okay, a lot of people might not know Brittany
Venti.
Brittany Venti. She's black. She's a lighter skinned black, but she is black. So this is a black woman dressing in blackface, and white people are threatening to kill her over this. So you have white people threatening to end the life of a black person because of blackface. And that's obviously exactly what she's doing. And as this goes on and woke begins to die, you're going to see people in more and more outrageous Halloween costumes. So I would expect to see the man from Germany with the mustache in blackface probably next year.
Yes, and it does seem like Gen Z, not only in the US, but all over, apparently here in Mexico as well, are sick and tired of having to continue with the facade of the left and progressivism because they've been attacked with it for their whole lives through school, through their parents. And now rebelling against that is what is becoming, the thing to do.
Well, yeah, as when this conversion starts to hit and you're seeing people dress up in blackface, you're going to see more outrageous costumes next year and the year after. Leftists are going to lose their mind, and these young Gen Alpha, Gen Z people are just going to laugh in their face. They've had enough of it, and they're not bowing down to this anymore.
And it also seems like the trans cult has stopped having their little claws synced into Gen Z and Gen Alpha, because now it seems like they're rebelling completely against the whole trans agenda as well. So it's all good to see. Blair White had a good video about that.
The whole thing's falling apart. I mean, USAID had a lot to do with the funding that was behind the scenes with all this stuff, where they could get an authoritarian streak into the youth through propaganda. But I mean, that's coming to an end now, and people are starting to express their real thoughts and feelings.
Yes. And it seems like social media and just media in general aren't able to keep up with the censorship they once used to want to have, because they're realizing that that's not the winning game anymore.
Yeah.
It was for a while, but it isn't. But speaking of censorship, apparently from Camus, India's digital ID disaster is a warning to the world. Over 1 billion people were forced into a biometric system linking food, pensions, and healthcare to a single digital ID. The result, a humanitarian crisis. And here in Mexico, we do have something similar happening, although rolling out luckily a bit slower, but it doesn't mean that this isn't also a thing to watch and to keep seeing, and it's a good example of what could happen.
Well, and I'm not going to ease up off of this digital ID story. We're going to start the show with this, and then I have one more near the end. That being said, a lot of people don't know what happened in India, and this has already been implemented. So they're telling you all these great things they can do with this digital ID and how it's going to make life easier and how it's better for the government and for the citizens. It caused mass starvation in India, and any other country they release this in, they're going to have similar problems. This is going to be primed to be hacked and manipulated, not just by the government, but by individual citizens and hacker organizations.
Yes, and it says here, criminals hacked and cloned identities, leaving families starving, elderly without pensions, and the sick turned away from hospitals. In one state alone, 24 people starved to the end after being denied rations due to system failures. Millions of fake accounts siphoned funds meant for the poor, creating a black market for stolen identities. Sold as secure, it became a tool for control and exploitation. When survival depends on a single ID, a single digital ID, a glitch or a hacker can erase your access to life itself. And here in Mexico also, you're required to use, again, your face, your biometrics, your fingerprints, which you cannot easily get rid of if they get stolen from you. So
yeah, and in countries where, it's life and death if you're going to miss meals, paychecks, where starvation is like literally on the cuff, I'm really against digital ID. They should really put digital ID off for these poor countries. Test them
for all countries.
If they want to do them, which they're going to go ahead and do them in the first world countries first and show us how it works, show us how safe it is, how great it is. But if it's not so great, then let's put a stop to it very early on. I'm all in favor of not implementing these at all, but they're going to do it somewhere. So do it in the first world first.
No, I just say don't do it. First world, rebel. Everybody rebel against it.
For those of you who think that digital ID sounds convenient, let me warn you what happened in India, where over 1 billion people were forced into a system like this.
Pause it. 1.25, just so the music. Oh, okay.
Became one of the largest disasters of the century. In India, the government linked people's food rations, pensions, and even hospital access to a digital ID system. The problem? Criminal networks learned how to hack and manipulate biometric data. When fingerprints didn't match, or when hackers swapped someone's identity, people were locked out of survival. Entire families were denied food. In just one state, at least 24 people starved to death after being cut off from rations. Some elderly pensioners went months with no income because their IDs were hijacked. Victims reported going to the store only to be told, "Your fingerprint doesn't match, no food for you." Others went to hospitals and were turned away because their ID had been cloned. Imagine being sick, hungry, or elderly, and a glitch or a hacker takes away your right to live. This wasn't just a glitch here or there. Organized criminal groups exploited the system, stealing benefits, rerouting funds, and selling fake identities. At one point, millions of fake accounts were uncovered, used to siphon money meant for the poor. A system sold as secure ended up creating a black market for identities where the poor suffered and criminals thrived.
Okay, and you have to understand in a lot of these countries, criminal organizations are in bed with the government. They actually control large portions of the government. So they're going to have access to all of this. And I would expect something similar to happen probably in Mexico, South American countries, Central American countries, African countries. I mean, this is a global rollout they're trying to do with digital ID and digital currency. Why does it have to be done all at once? At a minimum, let it fail in countries that can afford to fail first if you're even going to do it. Like I said, everybody knows that watches this channel, I'm completely against digital ID and digital currency, but this is even more of a reason to stand up against it.
But it is easier to implement in the poorer countries because they have less ways to say no, and they have more ways that they need to benefit from saying yes to the globalist elite, I will call it, or to NGOs, essentially, or the UN, basically. But here in Mexico, I actually have a whole video on this channel about how they started trying to implement this whole digital ID through our CURP, which is our our identifying number as citizens. But now they're forcing you to, but then the president came out to say, no, it's not obligatory. It was a whole mess. So go watch the video on this channel to learn more about the mess Mexico made with digital IDs, other than the mess that we will talk about today later.
Yeah, and one more thing I'd just like to say. On our last episode, we talked about people in Italy standing up. They're trying to have a forced mandate for everybody to have this digital ID in Italy. It's been available since 2010. Hardly anybody has actually taken advantage of it, and this is a great thing. So if you are living in Italy right now, keep up the fight. Do not accept digital ID. Anywhere else you are in the world, as these governments try to roll it out, try your best to resist, or if you're forced to take it, use it as little as possible.
And Rafa says, I follow Brittany Venti. She is cool.
I like her. Nat doesn't.
Well, it's not that I don't like her. I used to watch her. I don't watch her anymore.
And this is typically the content creators I like, she doesn't like, and the ones she likes, I don't like, which is good because it gives us a bit of a variety. Yes. This will come up again when we talk about Nick Fuentes in a minute.
Which is now, because the right and the conservatives in the US are having kind of a civil war moment, and it's been ongoing for months now, almost a year, basically since before Trump got elected. And here in Mexico, something similar is happening. I guess we'll talk about that on Wednesday, and I'll talk about that in my Spanish show later with Eduardo Verástegui and the whole mess that's going on right there as well. But it seems like they're just trying to mimic the US, like Mexico always tries to do, because they have been having their own little fighting for a while now. So from Mario Nafwal, who you seem to now like.
I like Mario now a lot. He's won me over, and all the content creators I don't like in the beginning seem to win me over in the end. And whether it's Robert Barnes, Mario here, or Basecamp, these were all people I didn't like in the beginning, and I am avid followers of now.
From Mario Nafwal, Ben Shapiro, the right is not for sale to neo people with a mustache. This is our country and our party. Do you want to just watch what he says? I'm going to watch the whole video, or do you want me to read it?
We'll watch what he says here in a minute, but his loyalties obviously don't lie in America, but they lie in Israel, and that's okay, but he should be more transparent about that. He has been gatekeeping the conservative movement in the United States for a long, long time. If he wants to talk about anti-Semitism, he's creating more people that are anti-Semitic than anybody else by the way he's treating people. The way he treated Nick Fuentes when he had less than 1,000 subscribers, he tried to strangle him in the crib. And then we'll talk about Basecamp in a minute, but it's another show, a husband and a wife that are, I'd say, very mild manner, and Ben Shapiro likes to hate on them as well. I mean, there's a long list of people Ben Shapiro seems to think he can say what is and is not okay to talk about in the conservative movement.
So do you want to see what he said?
Yeah.
Are we watching all of it? I put it at 1.2. Ben Shapiro talks very fast, so hopefully it's still understandable.
We'll pause it and talk, and we'll try to get through it.
Sure.
What Kevin Roberts did last week is tragic and awful. He put out a statement that Heritage Foundation didn't just stand by Tucker Carlson. Kevin instead said openly and repeatedly that Tucker Carlson can do nothing, ever, that will sever his relationship with the conservative movement. He said that after and in defense of Tucker's glossing of Hitler defender Nick Fuentes. And he added that only members of the globalist class, direct quote, a venomous coalition, direct quote, subject to the dictates of someone else's agenda, direct quote, oppose Heritage's ongoing relationship with Tucker Carlson, which means that according to Kevin Roberts, apparently, anyone opposing the ongoing mainstreaming of Tucker Carlson is acting on behalf of a foreign power. Kevin's statement is a betrayal of the Heritage Foundation's history and principles, which is presumably why both Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes loved it. Rot that threatens our future.
Okay, and you can pause it here for a second. And this is really getting into the minutia, but who the hell does Ben Shapiro thinks he is telling what's acceptable and not acceptable in a conservative movement? The conservative movement is the big tent movement. There's libertarians in there. There's MAGA supporters. There's even rhinos. I don't agree with everybody on a lot of things, but being able to talk about everything and have a debate of ideas is the best way to get the best ideas to the top. And if he's so against Nick Fuentes specifically, maybe he should have a debate with him. The problem is he's scared to debate him, and he claims he's such a great debater. He'll debate college kids that really aren't used to speaking on camera on the spot. I'd love to see him go face to face with Nick Fuentes. Instead, he's giving people shit like Tucker Carlson that are interviewing Nick Fuentes, saying, you should be hard on him. You need to really grill him on this and that. If you want to grill him, why don't you grill him instead of telling other people how to act? You're trying to gatekeep and be a hall monitor. Candace Owens was right about this guy. He's nothing more than a glorified hall monitor, and he's lost a lot of his cachet within the conservative movement. So has the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire still has people that I like Matt Walsh or Michael Knowles, but they're only allowed to color outside.
And Isabel Brown.
They're only allowed to color outside the bounds so much because Ben Shapiro's right there, and he's not only right there watching them, he's actually their boss.
You want to keep going?
Well, why don't we play the other sector of this? Because what he was, if you go down, you can play his. So he was actually talking about this gentleman here. And
Kevin Roberts,
the
president of the Heritage Foundation.
And I thought I didn't even know Kevin Roberts. I don't necessarily agree with him on everything. I know the Heritage Foundation and their basic principles. But even if I don't agree with this guy on everything, he had a very reasonable statement. And I think it was very healthy what he said about the conservative movement and how we should act going forward as far as censorship goes. Free speech needs to be the absolute base upon which everything is laid on in the conservative movement. So let's listen to Kevin Roberts and notice how he's speaking a lot different than Ben Shapiro.
I'll have more to say on this in the coming days, but today I want to be clear about one thing. Christians can critique the state of Israel without being anti-Semitic. And of course, anti-Semitism should be condemned. My loyalty as a Christian and as an American is to Christ first and to America always. When it serves the interests of the United States to cooperate with Israel and other allies, we should do so, with partnerships on security, intelligence, and technology. But when it doesn't, conservatives should feel no obligation to reflexively support any foreign government, no matter how loud the pressure becomes from the globalist class or from their mouthpieces in Washington. The Heritage Foundation didn't become the intellectual backbone of the conservative movement by canceling our own people or policing the consciences of Christians. And we won't start doing that now. We don't take direction from comments on X, though we are grateful for the robust free speech debate. We also don't take direction from members or donors, though we are inherently grateful for their support, and we're adding more every day. This is the robust debate we invite with our colleagues, our movement friends, our members, and the American public. We will always defend truth. We will always defend America, and we will always defend our friends against the slander of bad actors who serve someone else's agenda. That includes Tucker Carlson, who remains, and as I have said before, always will be a close friend of the Heritage Foundation. The venomous coalition attacking him are sowing division. Their attempt to cancel him will fail. Most importantly, the American people expect us to be focusing on our political adversaries on the left, not attacking our friends on the right. I disagree with, and even abhor, things that Nick Fuentes says. But canceling him is not the answer either. When we disagree with a person's thoughts and opinions, we challenge those ideas in debate. And we have seen success in this approach as we continue to dismantle the vile ideas of the left. As my friend Vice President Vance said last night, what I am not okay with is any country coming before the interest of American citizens, and it is important for all of us, assuming we are American citizens, to put the interest of our own country first. That's where our allegiance lies, and that's where it will stay.
And that was a great statement. It was a little stiff, I will say, but he's probably not used to being on camera as much as Ben Shapiro. But
and he had to be very neutral and very calm.
But the sentiment and the direction he wants to go, more free speech. If you don't like what he's saying, you should debate him. Ben Shapiro telling other people they need to grill Nick Fuentes in interviews. Well, he tries to ban Nick Fuentes, and he successfully banned him for almost 10 years. Nick Fuentes was subject to Cozy TV. He's now only starting to become mainstream. If you don't like his ideas, the best way forward is going to be to take those ideas and say why they're not the best. And I have to admit, I watch a lot of Nick Fuentes. I agreed with him a lot, but I've been watching a lot of reactions of the Tucker Carlson Nick Fuentes interview, and there was one specifically, and I did not.
Well, I was going to say something before you go into this whole thing, but with this whole division on the conservative movement or of the conservative movement in the U.S., it reminds me of something that is really happening here in Mexico as well, where we barely have any kind of conservative anything at all. Conservative is a dirty word here in Mexico, and we'll see even our own president saying that in this next story coming up. But what I wanted to say is everybody has to think if we want to be conservatives as in the political current of conservatism and upholding those values and figuring out what those values are in the modern age as well, or if we want to create movements and coalitions and these people are in, these people are out. I think the best way to move forward is to think as conservatives all together, what can we do and how can we help each other and where do we differ from each other, and from there build on not a movement, because movements always will exclude certain people and will have very fixed ideas and ideals, which doesn't serve or help because it ends in infighting and it ends with people saying ridiculous things about each other and trying to, for example, censor free speech, which is one of the core tenets of actual conservatism nowadays. So we have to really think if we want to think about conservatism as a movement or we want to think about it as a political current that many people take part of.
Well, we've just seen, and we're seeing in America right now, is there is a split. More free speech, let's debate the ideas. Whoever's ideas are best will come to the top. And then there's the Ben Shapiros, and there's a lot of people that are rhinos, Republicans in name only in the United States, trying to do the exact same thing that Ben Shapiro's doing, because for the last 30 years, they've successfully been able to do that. But now the lid's off and anything is game and the best ideas are going to come to the top. But here in Mexico, nobody has any power in the conservative movement, and they're already...
There is no conservative anything. But we shouldn't have a conservative movement. It should just be conservative people doing several different things.
They're already all trying to be Ben Shapiro. They're all telling each other, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that. That's not conservative. This is conservative, rather than debating each other. And we've seen this happen with Verastegui over the weekend.
Yes, when he dared to criticize Milei, and now he had to cancel everything and he's ostracized from everything. But because it was already so fragmented and everybody's looking for power instead of helping everything rise together and be better, it'll continue to be this way and we'll continue to not have any conservative anything. Well, but quickly, Rafa says Ben Shapiro's country is Israel.
Yep, and
he
that's
also says,
exactly what I agree with.
And he also says he's a warmonger and MIGA or MIGA or Make Israel Great Again. But speaking of that, funnily enough, a channel that both you and I watch, but you watch it more than I do, called Basecamp, did a whole examination about Nick Fuentes' ideas and actually tore him down in a very nice way.
Yeah.
And they're right. And I think here in Mexico, a lot of Catholics should also listen to this as well.
Yeah, they actually agree, and they are allies with Nick Fuentes in a lot of ways. And they started off the episode by making that very clear. But then they systematically went with each of the ideas that Nick Fuentes has, specifically in the Tucker Carlson interview, and really gave an historical lesson on how he's actually wrong and how a lot of people need to reconsider what he's actually trying to teach, because
he might not even know.
I didn't know a lot of this, and very rarely does my stance changed so dramatically. Basecamp did a wonderful job on this. I've watched them for a long time, but they were kind of off-putting to me in the beginning, but
they're a little nerdy and awkward.
Through statistics, they've really won me over. Through the subject matters they've done, they've won me over. But on this specific thing, when they went into Nick Fuentes is about Catholicism as Christian nationalism. What I didn't know was in the founding of America, there was a lot of welcoming to Christian nationalism or Christian ideals, except for Catholics. Catholics were the first group discriminated in the United States.
I did know that.
So much so that if you practice Catholicism in a lot of states, you would be arrested. If you had a rosary, you would be arrested. And there's a lot of historical context to this because Quebec in Canada, which was very close to the northeastern original settlements, actually recognized Catholicism, and it scared a lot of the founders of the United States, and they made public statements in which they wrote down. They went in depth on this.
And why did it scare them? Why did it scare the founding fathers of America? Because Catholics are subject to the Vatican, the Pope, to another entity that would drive them away from the ideals that they were trying to build within the American context and the new country that would be America, which is why between both the Federalist Papers and within the Constitution and the letters that a lot of them sent each other, Madison, Adams, etc., it was fully described why Catholicism was not going to fit within the context of America and why they were seen, even before the Irish settled within the US way after, and that they were also discriminated for being Catholics because they were beholden to a different other, to the Vatican, to the Pope.
And in this episode,
this is the episode, by the way.
Well, yeah, and in this episode, what they went into is the actual modern context of Catholicism. Now, I know a lot of this, but a lot of people in the United States that are trying to implement Christian nationalism don't actually adhere to the Pope, and they're not actually Catholics.
And they disagree with the Pope a lot.
Modern Catholicism is very, very, very liberal. It's very green as far as green energy, carbon, very LGBTQ. It actually turns its
Quite
back.
captured.
It's quite captured. That being said, this is a good episode. I don't think they so much rag on Catholicism as really bring it into context in the founding of the United States. And it wasn't just Catholicism. A lot of the founding fathers in America were against religions that had consolidated power and a very much hierarchy, which kind of lend itself to outside influences. They were very much for grassroots decentralized religion.
And the question remains within the American context, but also within the context of a lot of other countries, because I've been studying up on what Hispanism means, because a lot of people have asked me in my Spanish show what my opinions are about it, and I formed a better opinion now that I learned what it is. But Catholicism will always be almost at war with patriotism or nationalism, because nationalism asks you to be beholden to the country and to your own country. And how can you do that in the American context, at least, if you're also beholden to a higher power and also a higher order, which would be the Catholic Church?
Well, there's a modern day schism forming in the Catholic Church. And I know a lot of Catholics. I respect the Catholic religion. I do not respect the Pope. And I think he is not a good representation of Catholicism in the modern context. It's almost like he's trying to bring all religions together to make a one world religion. The Pope before him was even worse.
Pope Francis.
That being said, in that podcast that I was talking about, they were talking about the Anglican Church, and the Anglican Church just a few weeks ago actually had a modern day schism where they're completely divided. Mm-hmm. Their version of what a pope is now a female, mm-hmm. and the church is divided right in half. You're seeing something very similar happening in Catholicism, where a lot of people are kind of turning away from it, but trying to still practice the religion, but not as preached by the Pope himself.
So it remains the eternal Catholic question, I guess, or the question for Catholics: do you follow the Pope, or who do you follow?
And but I do believe in the modern context, we need more religion in society, because what liberalism has done to society is nothing good. But
and the neo-religion that they have brought and that they have instituted everywhere, even though they don't see it as religion, is a lot more damaging to societies, and we continue to see it nowadays, even if we're going against woke, than religion has been in the whole context of the world.
But you have to be very careful.
And history.
You have to be very careful if you're going to turn towards the Catholic Church and have Catholic nationalism, because if you look around the world at all the countries that are majority Catholic, these are some of the most corrupted countries. And I was looking at the statistics on that podcast, and it was shocking. A matter of fact, I used to agree with Nick Fuentes on a lot of things, but a lot of the arrows he was shooting at Judaism and the Jews can actually be said about the Catholics even more of a context. They've consolidated power and influence in the American government even more so than Israel. And the amount of money that's being dished out to Israel, which is $14 billion, pales in comparison to the amount of money that's being dished out to a lot of these Catholic countries.
And even to elsewhere where there's Catholic influence. But then we have the context of the evangelicals and also the every other branch of Christianity that they have in the US that have also a lot of them, and we've seen it in Canada, been captured also by the woke and by the progressives. So I think there also needs to be a revision of who and what to follow and what are they actually preaching and who is actually connected within both the churches and the institutions to figure fully out what you want to believe and who you're gonna follow.
Yeah, and
or just go with God.
Well, and we do live in a democracy, so I don't mind the idea of politicians being elected because they have religious values and they're going to vote based on those religious values, whether it's abortion or other things like the death penalty and stuff like that. So I think religion should influence your voting behavior, but it should not influence it in the sense where, I'm going to be loyal to Israel or I'm going to be loyal to a Catholic state above everything else. I think you can be beholden to religious values without being beholden to a hierarchy of religion.
But influencing the way you think through the morals, traditions, and foundational principles that you follow instead of just voting based on what you're told, which is what happens nowadays with the left.
Well, and I do think a lot of Catholics do vote based upon their religious
morals.
The religious
which
morals.
Is a societal way to do it, which is the way it should be.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be from up on high being told how to vote, because that wouldn't be democratic.
And I think that's why a lot of people don't mind putting Catholics in power. You don't have a lot of Catholics that are preaching Vatican first. So, I don't mind a lot of the Supreme Court justices that are Catholic.
But there are a lot more than people think there are.
And American Catholicism is much different than a lot of other Catholicism worldwide. They don't necessarily hold the Pope up as more holy than thou.
But then are they
truly Catholic?
Are they truly Catholic? Yeah. Vatican II, pre-Vatican II, etc. We could get into this a lot more. But Rafa says, I'm part of the Knights of Columbus, and what you say, guy, is precisely why that fraternity was created. Henry Ford warned us about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what the Knights of Columbus is?
I don't know what the Knights of Columbus is, but I do understand why the founding fathers were very wary about Catholicism. And it's because just like Israel, it can make citizens be beholden to somebody else. And the Vatican in general has always looked upon America as an enemy.
So it's a global nonprofit Catholic fraternal service organization for Catholic men. That's what Knights of Columbus is.
Oh, I don't.
Because I didn't know what it was, so I looked it up. I guess speaking of Columbus, I don't know how to segue this.
But I will say one more thing. If you haven't watched, can you go back to the base camp image?
Yes.
This episode of Base Camp, Nick Fuentes and the ideology, they focus less on Nick Fuentes, I would say.
And the titling is actually very apt because it says Nick Fuentes' ideology, fascinating, if oxymoronic. And I would say exactly, it's very oxymoronic, and I don't think Fuentes even knows what that means.
This is a very interesting episode, especially if you're a Catholic, especially if you're into religious politics, which I am, and if you're interested in that history as it relates to America, because I didn't know most of this. This episode educated me more than any episode I have seen of anything in a long time, and it's going to be a 2-part series. This was only the first one. I usually watch everything at 2 times speed. With this particular episode, I watched it at the normal rate. Yeah.
And with this as well, also, if you take everything Nick Fuentes says at face value, this might make you rethink some of the things and some of the ways he conceives of what he's actually asking and looking for, because once again, it seems like he maybe not be informed about what happened in actual American history, or he might just be trying to misguide others. But I don't even think it's that. I just think he doesn't know, and he hasn't done enough research as he claims he has.
Oh, that being said,
I don't like Nick Fuentes.
As much as Nick Fuentes' talking points were kind of taken down here, I still do respect him, and I think people that want to cancel him need to debate him. They don't need to silence him, and they're really showing their true colors. That a lot of people that want to silence people without debating them, and they want to tell other people to cancel them as well. These are rhinos in in name only.
And the left.
Or Republicans in name only, because the neocons basically controlled the conservative movement for the last 30 years, and they think they can do it again. As of right now, it's a populist movement. Trump's running that movement, and we can talk about anything, and the best ideas will come to the top.
And Fletcher Williams, hi, we haven't seen you in a while. Thank you for being here. Says, all Catholics are political since we are asked to pray and be involved in the community. But I don't know if it was within, I mean, I'm not a Catholic. I don't know if I just have Catholic family and stuff. But I don't know if it would you consider that all Catholics are political because they're asked to be of service and be involved within the community?
I would say it's
because you watch a lot more than I do.
I would say all religion is political by nature, and I'd say a lot of religious groups that we thought would never kind of come together over the last few years because liberalism has taken such an authoritarian role have come together. We've seen Muslims and Christians come together, Jews, Muslims and Christians kind of come together at certain points, whether it was against trans ideology or freedom of speech or other things, especially in Canada where we're originally from. I mean,
I'm from Mexico.
Dance partners you wouldn't necessarily think would come together came together because liberalism had kind of started to paint so far out of bounds.
Although in very specific and small situations, and then they continue the infighting. But Rafa says, and I agree with this, Rafa says, Nick Fuentes is crazy, but I'm against canceling him. And that's kind of where I stand. I'd rather learn his ideas, debate them, and see them fall apart through actual merit and through facts and how they did it at base camp rather than just saying cancel him, because that means you cannot, if you're trying to cancel someone or stop someone from speaking, it's because you know you would probably lose against them, and it's out of fear. It's not out of knowing you actually have the correct point.
Yeah, and they didn't go after Nick Fuentes in any way, shape, or form in a way of malice. They were extremely nice about it. They just talked about the talking points and the alternative history and statistics.
Well, the actual history.
Man, they did a great job. And even just as a case example of how you win a debate or how you refute somebody's ideas in the best possible way, that episode of Base Camp impressed me, and I'll be a longtime fan after that.
So it's BASEDCAMP, Based Camp. Go subscribe to them if you haven't, or if you don't know who they are. They're really great. They're a nerdy couple, they're cute, and they have a baby, which distracted me the whole episode because the baby is on screen. So if you're easily distracted by tiny humans, then just be forewarned.
Well, they look like liberals.
It's really cute.
They look like liberals, but they talk like conservatives.
Yes, and they do have a lot of good statistics and information, although the episodes can be long. But speaking of conservatism or lack of, or not even understanding what conservatism is, in Mexico, we did have quite a few tragedies, but one specific one over the weekend from Vizgard, and I chose one.
And I think this is the big story of the day. We have two stories back to back here that kind of deal with this.
Yes.
We buried it a little bit because we didn't want to get censored because it can be
it has sensitive information.
Sensitive to the YouTube censors, I think.
So fear in Mexico as the cartels murder Carlos Manso, mayor of Uruapan, the second largest city in the state of Michoacán. For months, the mayor had been recording live streams asking Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum to help him fight the cartels in his city. He had launched a major security operation against them and asked for backup from the army and the state. He later frequently criticized Sheinbaum for doing nothing against organized crime. He was viewed as someone who would challenge Sheinbaum in the next presidential election in 2030. They were both from the same Morena party, which is the current party in power and was before as well. He was shot and ended yesterday evening while celebrating Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos, with his young son and wife. Mexicans are outraged by the ending and the cartel violence. They will now take to the streets to protest on November 15th. And I don't think we can watch the video, because it is pretty graphic. We might play it on RUMBLE after.
But Sheinbaum had a response to this, and her response is absolutely despicable. Things are really escalating with the United States and Mexico. The tariff deal is really dependent, I think, on how Mexico is going to handle the cartels. Also, what's going on in Venezuela is escalating a lot as well. I think the cartels and other foreign governments do not want Maduro to step down. Trump almost had Maduro step down at the end of his first term. He was going to offer him, his family, and his generals immunity. I think Trump is trying to apply pressure to get him to step down. I think normally it would work. The problem is now a lot of the cartels that operate within Venezuela are probably Mexican, and they're putting massive pressure for him not to step down, because if he does, the next target is going to be these Mexican cartels.
And I think I do need, before we see the response from President Claudia Sheinbaum regarding the murder of Carlos Manso, I have to give a little bit of context about what goes on in Mexico and Mexican politics. As I mentioned earlier, in Mexico, there really is no truly conservative as we think of it in the US context, the Canadian context, the European context. There is no conservative or right-wing party of any kind. There's no real right-wing movement either. Right now, they're fighting each other, actually. But Morena, Claudia Sheinbaum, the left in Mexico, continues to blame an imaginary ghost they call the conservatives and the right, which once again doesn't fully exist. Most people in Mexico don't really even know that what the term conservative truly means, because it has been so used for trash talk only for the past at least 15 to 20 years that it has been completely destroyed. So when we're going to show what Claudia Sheinbaum said, just think of it in that context, that there is no real full conservative movement or party or anything at all here in Mexico. But this is what she said. So after the brutal murder of Uruapan's mayor Carlos Manso in Michoacan, Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum blamed the right wing for wanting to bring back the war on drugs. Sheinbaum dismissed the stronger security measures or foreign assistance, insisting that intervention leads nowhere, so they don't want the U.S. to come in. Meanwhile, Michoacan and other states are already descending into lawless territories controlled by cartels, and they will continue to do so. Is the clip in English?
I believe it's in Spanish, but you can play it. You can play it anyway.
Okay.
La derecha. La guerra contra el narco. Que regrese García Luna. ¿Qué proponen? ¿La intervención? Eso no lleva a ningún lado. Vamos a reforzar, sí, Michoacán y otros estados de la República, pero fortaleciendo la presencia, la inteligencia, la cero impunidad y la atención a las causas. Ahora, no podemos dejar de mencionar esta andanada de la derecha, de algunos comentócratas y conductores.
And I think...
Well, that's the moment where she starts blaming the right.
She's between a rock and a hard place right now. This isn't your normal war on drugs, how it was the first time the United States kind of went after this. They were working hand in hand with the cartels, with the Fast and the Furious op that kind of happened where they were smuggling drugs, the Iran-Contra scandal. The U.S. government was working hand in hand with cartels. Trump's going into Venezuela trying to actually end this stuff. It looks like something's going on in Brazil as well. He's heavily funding Milei in Argentina. If Venezuela does fall, he's going to want to come into Mexico hard and heavy. And I think Morena or Claudia Sheinbaum behind the scenes is going to be forced into cooperation with him. And it's going to be very interesting what happens here over the next couple of years.
And we have already seen some sort of cooperation from the Mexican government. They have been capturing more and more some of the heads of, but not the full heads of these cartels, and trying to make a show of force, sending some of them to the States and actually doing something on the surface. But then things like this happen, and things like this that are truly obviously targeted, like what happened in Colombia with Miguel Uribe Turbay, who unfortunately lost his life. He was a conservative candidate for the next elections in Colombia, and the left-wing party, obviously, I will say, but supposedly had something to do with it. All of this escalation from the people that are being pointed at and said, I mean, Carlos Manso was saying to the government itself, and it was his own party, you're not doing anything to help me. What are you going to do to help me? And we have also spoken about how maybe the U.S. intervention, full U.S. intervention here in Mexico might not be such a good idea, and it might not be the way we want to go. But it seems like, once again, Sheinbaum is painting and putting herself into a rock and a hard place, because there's no way of continuing this the way it is, and it will continue if nothing is done.
Well, that goes right into the next story, so why don't we just kind of bring it up?
Oh, let me just read quickly. Rafa asks, will you go to the protests? There is something else going on that day as well, so we'll have to figure out what we might actually go
and also CPAC got canceled because of the rift that's going on between, what's his name again?
Eduardo Verástegui and Javier Milei, president of Argentina.
And the PAN party is involved. The PAN party seems to want to do a rebrand, and now they want to control the conservative movement in Mexico.
They still do.
The problem with that is they've aligned themselves with a bunch of liberal parties. A lot of their policies are liberal. They're disguised as conservatives, and they want to take over the conservative movement. So can you really trust them in the first place?
And the PAN is mostly just center. It's not even center-right. And they have always been seen in Mexico as the conservative ones, but only because they have some religious or used to have some religious principles, which they don't even have anymore. With this new rebranding, they actually took the word God or faith completely out of any of their tenets or what they've written that they want to do. So,
well, you're seeing Verástegui and you're seeing the PAN party saying what you can and can't say about people or issues rather than debate it out and have the best ideas rise to the top. That's kind of what's happening in the United States, and that's how you got a populist conservative movement. Here in Mexico,
which is now infighting as well.
Here in Mexico, you have this rhino movement where everybody wants to put guardrails on what's okay to say. So you have this very narrow.
There's not even concept of conservatism here. Nobody knows what it means. It's used as an insult.
Yeah, and that's because you have a very narrow context of things you're actually allowed to say, do, or believe. And if you don't, then it's a purity test.
Although with Verástegui, it was actually the Argentinians and the libertarians that were trying to, and that eventually did kind of bring him down a peg or two and canceled CPAC.
Okay, let's go into.
And Rafa says, I really hate her, the Mexico's president. I don't even have the proper words to describe how repulsive she is. Oh. And she looked, what was she wearing? She looked like she was in Star Trek.
Yeah, what's the other girl that I always talk about?
Lili Tellez.
Oh, yeah, Lili Tellez. She's not in an actual position of power. So any politicians that are in positions of power right now that are going to kind of speak up about this issue and the ending of the politician's life may themselves be ended. But it seems Lili Tellez is in a very unique position where she's going to be able to talk up about this. And she's already been talking up about this on world media, US media, and Mexican media. So she has actually a lot to gain, and she's in a very good position to kind of gain from this by pointing it out and by being the only person that has the balls to point it out, even though she has no balls.
However, she is from the PAN, so
yeah.
And the PAN most of the PAN doesn't like her speaking up so much. So there you get some more context about.
I could
Mexican
see her.
politics.
I could really see her speaking up and kind of being a Trump-like figure coming to the top of the PAN. Even though they hate her, they're going to be forced to put her probably in the role of running for president next time.
But that's 5 years away here in Mexico, so still a lot to see what happens. Probably will continue to crumble and become worse and worse, hopefully not. But Rafa also says everything here is now controlled by organized crime. In some states, you can't even open a business without having to pay extortions or being shot. Exactly. And Rafa also says Lili Tellez is the opposite. I love her. And I think that is a sentiment of a lot of people who do admire the new conservatism, let's just call it, or the new conservative populism, whatever you want to call it, from the States and Europe and Canada maybe, but they're not doing anything in Canada. And here, again, it's very much controlled and thought of as the old way things used to be done. And I think Lili Tellez is smart by seeing what is happening elsewhere and saying, might attach my ideals more to that than what is they're asking me to do here in Mexico.
Well, and I think it's a great idea to put Lili Tellez in a position of power, because if she does get that position of power, she hit the third rail, the one thing you're not supposed to talk about. So if she does end up winning the presidency or getting a position of power, if you bring certain topics up to her and she tries to put guardrails on it, it's going to be very easy for the movement to kind of point out she was able to kind of break through by talking about the things that aren't supposed to be talked about.
And hopefully she continues to do so. But someone that might be stripped from power or shakeup that's happening.
No.
But
1 second. Where's the Trump story?
Which one? You put it all the way at the end.
Well, no, I meant to cut and paste it, and then you started moving things around.
Oh, sorry. It's all my fault. Now I have to look for that here.
That's the Mexican Trump story.
Yes. So from Nick Sortor, breaking, President Trump is planning to send U.S. troops into Mexico to target drug cartels per NBC. This is exactly how the U.S. military should be used, defending their own homeland.
Okay, let's go into the video a little bit.
Just 25 seconds.
Yeah, and this is going into the exact thing we were just kind of talking about. I think the tariff deal and the future relationship between the United States and Mexico is going to depend on what kind of military force the Mexicans allow the Americans to use in Mexico to clean up this issue.
would include American troops and intelligence officers on the ground striking drug labs and cartel leaders south of the border. This would essentially open a new front in the president's military campaign against cartels, which is thus far focused on strikes against alleged drug-carrying boats. Well, on Saturday, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth announced what appears to be the 15th boat strike in the Caribbean. Following all of this, Courtney Cuban would include American troops and
Yeah, and I could see the Mexicans getting an extremely good tariff deal, but it would be on the contingency they cooperate with the U.S. military, and that will probably be written into the contract. So it's going to be very interesting what happens. Also, this Venezuelan thing, the Mexican cartels definitely do not want Maduro to step down or lose power right now, because if he does, the U.S. government is going to be focused on Mexico next. If they can maintain Maduro's power, then the focus is going to have to be maintained on Maduro.
Mm-hmm. And Rafa says about Lily Tellez, she was almost ended when she was a journalist. She is really brave for still speaking out.
Oh, I didn't know she was a journalist, so that's good to know.
Yes. Now the story we're going to do before you told me to go to Trump. From Breitbart, the Global Fellowship of Confessing Anglicans, or GAFCON, has essentially excommunicated the See of Canterbury after Sarah Mullally, who supports blessings for same-sex couples, was named Archbishop. We cannot continue to have communion with those who advocate the revisionist agenda, which has abandoned the inerrant word of God as the final authority. We have not left the Anglican Communion. We are the Anglican Communion.
Yeah, and as we were just talking about Catholicism, I was doing some research, and like Catholicism is kind of having a schism between the Pope and a lot of followers that don't have the same liberal beliefs. The Anglican Church has already had that schism in physical form. A lot of the church is completely separated. They're not willing to follow these ideals. They're not willing to follow a woman as their leader. So is there a video for that?
No, it's just a photo. That's why I moved away from it. But so this is the new Archbishop of Canterbury. The Anglican Church is founded in England and has a lot to do also with Britishness. But we did do this story and we did speak about her, and also the reception that they were trying to do for other members of different religious groups. I don't remember if it was just Christians or just everybody, but a lot of people were not happy and were angry, and now it seems like they're also doing something about it. So this division that's happening within a lot of communities in general, also on the right or on the religious front or on a bunch of different fronts, might determine where we go from here.
Yeah.
Like it seems like it's a turning point.
Like I'm not trying to be harsh on Catholicism at all. When we were talking about it earlier, I have a great respect for it. The problem is the direction the popes have been taking the church over the last few popes is absolutely ridiculous. And a lot of people feel the same way that I do. Mm-hmm. But it's not just happening in Catholicism. It's happening in the Anglican Church as well. It's happening in a lot of different churches. Globalists are trying to take the countries, the religions, and the people in one direction, while the people actually have a fundamental foundation and either want to remain where they're at or even go in the other direction.
Because as we have said, and as we have seen it happen in Canada, it does look like religion, they're going to try to use religion to put on the skin suit of it and pass through and continue with all of the ideas they had and all of the ideology they had, but from a different front that might be more palatable to the people that were originally against it.
Yeah, the Pope's changing the Catholic Church from within. This lady is trying to change the Anglican Church from within, so it's acceptable for the left to put on the skin suit of religion. The left normally wouldn't be able to even fathom putting on the skin suit of the religion, but over the last couple decades, they have really dug their claws into it. It changed a lot of the laws and the views within religion, changed a lot of the hierarchy, done it through big money, NGOs, and really changed the leadership of these churches. So now it's completely possible for wokeism to really slip into the skin suit of religion. So if you are religious, just be very aware of what's kind of happening within Catholicism, within the Anglican Church, within a lot of these churches. They're not yet lost, but it's going to take good people to kind of stand up and defend religion from the inside. A lot of people see religion being attacked from the outside. It looks like it's the enemy within that could really destroy it.
And Rafa says, but when will Trump start fighting the drug dealers from his own side of the border? Well, he's trying. Didn't he put in a bunch of different National Guard in different cities?
Yeah, and I think a lot
Washington?
of what ICE is doing with illegal immigration and that they're trying to go after drug dealers and they're trying to fight it on that side of the border as well. They've arrested a lot of high-ranking cartel members in Los Angeles. They're specifically trying to target Los
I think
Angeles.
Rafa means the Americans.
Yeah,
The
but-
American drug dealers.
Well, that's what I'm kind of talking about. They specifically going to start targeting Los Angeles because the cartel base is out of Los Angeles, and a lot of American citizens that do work with the cartel are based out of Los Angeles. It's just very hard because it's in a blue state, but
And
we
Newsom.
do kind of seen him wanting to target specifically Chicago and Los Angeles, and I think it's because it serves a double purpose. It just doesn't only get out illegal immigrants, which he kind of promised in the campaign, but he can specifically go after cartel members in the same context as releasing ICE agents and law enforcement on those cities.
And Walker says, hello, guys. Hello,
Oh, good to see
Walker.
you.
How are you? How is everything going? And now we're turning back to the U.S. from MAGA Nation. Speaker Johnson is livid after discovering Democrats have filed a lawsuit against the USDA for trying to find out how many illegal immigrants are receiving welfare benefits. They actually sued the Department of Agriculture for simply asking how many illegals are enrolled in welfare programs across states like California and New York. They sued them. Can you believe that?
The recent scandal that came out, illegal immigrants that were crossing the border into the United States were actually handed Social Security numbers at the time of crossing and then given a court date. That Social Security number was able to be used for voting and to get Social Security benefits, as well as welfare benefits for food. And this is all coming in the context of the government shutdown. They're really starting to look into these agencies and trying to see where the fat kind of is.
And the Democrats will continue to abuse it. They sued the USDA for simply asking them to tell them how many illegal aliens are on the programs in California, New York, and these other states. They sued them. You need to take account of what people are doing here in each party. The leaders and the President of the United States, we are trying to get government to work more efficiently and effectively for the people, and we are getting stopped and hindered by political games by Democrats.
And you have to pause it for a
That's why we're
sec.
so
Oh, that's good. And the USDA is one of the agencies that is kind of responsible for food stamps or works in coordination with other agencies. So they kind of wanted that information. And there's 51 states in the United States. There's 20 somewhat Democrat states that are blue. 20 of those states are refusing to give that data over. 2 of those states are directly suing for the government even asking for that data. And why are they so upset? Because this isn't just about food stamp benefits. That Social Security number and these people that are getting food stamps are also able to vote, and they're not legal residents within the country. So this is really stretching the government and government dollars and taking assistance that would be given normally to U.S. citizens and giving it to illegal immigrants.
And we have this here from Secretary Brooke Rollins. On my first day at USDA, we told every state to send us their SNAP data so we can make sure illegal immigrants aren't getting benefits meant for American families. 29 states stepped up, 21 blue states refused, and 2 sued for asking.
Yeah,
Sued
that's
them for
just
asking.
crazy. The fact that they would sue even for asking.
Do you want to see it?
Yeah.
Well, because they know that they're reacting because they know that they can't give that data because it's not going to be good.
Day one of USDA, February 13th, is we sent letters to every governor in America being very clear that no illegal aliens can use SNAP. 0, 0, 0. We asked every state for the first time in history, and this was in February, to send us their data and let us, with DOJ and a war room, actually start going through this data to better understand how this explosion of SNAP benefits happened under Joe Biden. We increased almost 40% on this program in just a couple of years under the Biden administration.
Yeah, I believe it went from about 7 billion to 12 or 14 billion. So that was a huge increase just in 14 years. Also, if they get these Social Security numbers that were illegally given out, they're going to be able to cross-reference that onto voting rolls and see what kind of ballots were sent out.
Of course, we know they were trying to buy the election, but that's a conversation for another time. And since we have asked for that data, 29 states have complied. Of course, almost all the red states, a couple of the couple blue states too. But in that data, and I haven't talked about this yet publicly, in that data we've studied about $100 billion in spend. We have found thousands and thousands of illegal use of the EBT card. We have been moving people off of SNAP. We've got almost 700,000 people, I think, we've moved off just since the president took office. We've arrested about 118 people. So this has been ongoing. But Rachel, to your point, what this conversation has allowed is a national spotlight on a broken and corrupt program. We found one guy in 6 different states getting a benefit. We found about 5,000 people that are dead who are still getting benefits. Like, it is time to drastically reform this program so that we can make sure that those who are truly needy, truly vulnerable, are getting what they need, and the rest of the corruption goes away, and we can serve the American taxpayer.
And I know you and I have differing opinions on benefits and how much help should the government be handing out. But I still, with SNAP and stuff, and when you see how it is being used and what it is being used for, at least for some people, and how some people use them, I still am against mostly government just handing out help and people becoming dependent upon government to receive that help.
Normally I would for most countries, because most countries can't afford to do it, but the United States government can. So can the Canadian government. They're sending literally hundreds of billions of dollars overseas to fight these unjustified wars, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's Israel, whether it's God knows what war. Now they're about to get involved in Venezuela. But if they just stop sending all this money overseas, it's going to be not only possible to give out SNAP benefits and food benefits to American citizens, which they should verify that it's American citizens only, but actually create job programs and education programs for these citizens so they don't have to internally be on them. Right now, they're stretched so thin, they can only afford to give out these food benefits. They need to have job retraining benefit programs. They can't afford those programs right now because there's so much corruption in the system.
And the goal should be to get the people out of it. Like, yes, we'll give it to you, but we'll also help you so you don't need it eventually.
Yeah, but it's going to cost...
And they kind of forgot that second bit.
But it's going to cost even more money to have these re-education or re-job programming or certification programs. The only way to really do it is to stop these forever wars, stop all this external money that's going out, really clean up not only the voter rolls, but the welfare rolls too, to make sure it's only citizens getting it. So they can have an actual program that is not forever food stamp benefits, but is actually job training benefit programs that go along with the food stamps until the people no longer need them.
Yes, I would be more okay with that than just handing people money and making them dependent upon the government, because then you'll always be dependent upon the government and you'll be more willing to do what they say and ask for when they should be working for you. But you added a story about Canadian tourism, and I didn't know why.
Oh, did you? Yeah, do you have it?
From the CBC, because I didn't know how to segue into this one. So from the CBC, Canada, summer tourism numbers hit all-time high. Record numbers driven by strong domestic and international travelers.
Yeah, I watch, leave it on the headline there. I watch a lot of liberal media, and they're all touting this as a huge victory in Canada. The Canadian economy is absolutely collapsing. And behind this headline is the truth of what's happening in Canada. Canadians can't afford to go overseas anymore. So they're doing tourism within their own country and within their own city. That's why these tourism dollars are going up. Also, there has been massive amounts of illegal or legal and illegal immigrants allowed into Canada. So now their family members are coming over to visit them, spending tourist dollars there, as well as staying in the country illegally. So don't be deceived by these headlines that these liberals are trying to tout as, oh, the Canadian economy is doing good. Look at our tourism. It's doing so well. It's not doing well. It's doing well in the context of, a lot of money's coming in, but there are underlying problems of immigration and Canadians not being able to afford to go on vacation outside of the country.
And this is what Canada always does, and also always paints the brochure very nice and gives you very nice highlight reel and the best brochures ever that make you want to go or go live there, which is what happened to me. And then you arrive there and see the chaos and the lies that you have been told about it. Did you want me to read the article or just show it?
No, I just kind of wanted to discuss the headline and actually discuss the problems that are underlying of why the Canadian tourism industry is going up.
And let's see how Canada is actually doing, because in Toronto, the Toronto police forgot to put their car in park during an arrest and run over a suspect's legs. The police then get control of the car and proceed to drive over the suspect, making things even worse. Canada's largest police force is a DEI disgrace. We have also shown videos of the Canadian police departments being treated to shows from drag queens and a lot of other things that waste time, money, and don't actually help them get better at their jobs, which they are needed because Canada is becoming increasingly unsafe.
And you're going to see this police car in the foreground. The camera guys are going to go around the police car, and then a gentleman in the distance. That's what we're kind of looking at here.
Hopefully, YouTube doesn't get mad at us for showing violence.
Right here's the suspect. He gets tased. And then the car's not in park, so he gets ran over. And they're trying to push the car off of him. Oh!
Had you not seen it?
Oh.
Because again, technically he's just a suspect. I mean, I
Okay,
guess
and
he
I'm
could
going
be
to
caught
say that, and I'm going to say this: the guy probably did something wrong. He's probably a little crazy, and if he did, he shouldn't have to serve any time for that. There should be a lawsuit for that, and the charges should be dropped. He's going to have some major repercussions. That vehicle wasn't even able to drive over top of him. Man, that was sorry.
Yeah. He always reacts like that when there's any kind of violence or something happening.
Not violence, because I like the UFC.
But when he makes me watch the UFC, I was just going to say it's just him going, the whole time. And I'm very, like, I never react to anything. So, yes, that was funny. But let's now go to Canada as well and China, because...
Oh, and I want to just bring one more thing up about Canada. Tomorrow, the budget is going to be dropping. This is huge. This could trigger an election in Canada. Politics is going to be on the agenda tomorrow for Canada. It's going to be headline news. So I think I'm going to have an episode on my own tomorrow, and I'll talk about it.
Okay, and then we'll talk about it on Wednesday further.
I'll have you off camera at least.
Yes, because you need me. From the CBC, China emerging as top consumer for Canadian oil shipped via Trans Mountain Pipeline, because nobody else wants it. Shift occurring amid trade war and U.S. sanctions on crude from Russia and Venezuela. Yeah,
they're refusing to build oil pipelines. This is the one oil pipeline they kind of built for to the coast. Canada's infrastructure and Canada's economy could turn around on a dime because they have so much natural resources. The government's just refusing to do it. But this is a good example of the one pipeline project they did in the last decade, and it's actually successful. And they need to do about 100 more different pipeline natural resource projects, whether it's mining, lumber, electricity. They need to build another pipeline to the East Coast so they can access the European market. Before this pipeline was built, the only market they had access to was the American market, and they had to sell all their oil at a discount. It shows that if you build it, they will come. The Chinese are willing to buy the oil, just like the Europeans are. The Japanese and the Koreans basically begged Canada for their oil. They just don't have the ability to ship it over.
And they have buried themselves because, as even the headline says, because of the sanctions, the tariff war, and the trade war, everything going on with the U.S., which would be their main trading partner and who would actually want to use a lot of the resources that Canada has, they have put themselves in the losing position, all while the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, continues to benefit from having oil investments all over the world with his Brookfield Asset Management, which he moved to the U.S. so he could make more money because he knew he was going to tank the Canadian economy.
Well, we can go back to that picture.
I hate Mark Carney.
And yeah, it was interesting. I also had brought this particular article up because I actually worked on this pipeline. I was actually at that facility. And this is how I bought all the cameras for this. Before we left, I was working 4 jobs. This is one of the jobs I was working. I remember the specific site. So it looks good now that it's all completed.
Because this is June 2024 at the Trans Mountain Westridge Marine Terminal in Burnaby, BC.
Yeah, and there was
You used to take my car.
There was quite a few terminals they were actually building them. This was one I worked at all the different terminals they were building. So The great infrastructure project, it brought a lot of jobs and a lot of money into Canada. It helped me kind of pursue my dreams. So I'm always grateful for that. But they need to do more of this because Canada is currently dying right now.
And it'll continue to. And again, tomorrow, and we might also see some movements and some shifts with the Canadian dollar, as you have been warning and warning and warning. So finally tomorrow we will see what those movements and what that probably big dip will be.
Yeah, what little money we did have, we moved from a Canadian account into another account because I'm expecting the Canadian dollar to fall off an absolute cliff over the next 24 months. It's going to start tomorrow. It might not actually dip tomorrow, but it's going to be the beginning of the end, and nothing good can really come after November 4th, at least in my opinion. So.
And it's not like we're wishing that to happen, but once again, Canada has put itself in that position and has continued to elect the ones that want it in that position.
And I will
like
say, they could trigger an election based on the budget tomorrow. A conservative government, by some miracle, could get in. If that does happen, they are going to greenlight a ton of natural resource projects, and the country could potentially turn around. The problem is Canada has been under liberal rule for over a decade now. They've reelected a new liberal, and his policies are even more radical.
Mm-hmm. And somebody else that has very radical policies is Mamdani guy in New York, which we have continued to talk about. So apparently now there's a Mamdani election fraud from Jake. He says the socialist New Yorker brags about voting for Sohran Mamdani 6 times, openly admitting to election fraud on camera because they're just that stupid. Under New York election law 17-132, voting more than once in any election is a Class E felony, punishable by up to 4 years in state prison per count. 6 illegal votes, 6 felonies, up to 24 years behind bars. Do you want to see this retard?
Yeah, and let's remember, we have socialists like this voting 6 times. They have illegal immigrants coming in. They give social security numbers that aren't necessarily voting, but they have those social security numbers. So different NGOs can request ballots for those people and then fill them out illegally for themselves. And that's how you get people like Zohran Mamdani winning in a landslide, or at least that's what's expected.
I'm here in New York about to illegally vote for Zohran Mamdani 6 times. Yeah. 6.
Well, he said, I'm going to. He doesn't say he's done it, but I'm sure he tried.
Well, and you're wondering why would somebody admit to a felony on camera? It's because they're trying to influence other people to do the same.
And because they're retarded too. Hold on, Rafa has a question, so I gotta pull it up. Hold on. Rafa says, is it true that the Canadian Prime Minister apologized to Trump?
Yeah, first he denied it even happened. Then he apologized to him, and then it was one of the premiers of Ottawa that actually ran the ad. But him and Mark Carney are good buddies. So then they asked the premier, like, "Well, why did you run the ad if Mark Carney didn't approve it?" And he goes, "We were sitting down together. We were laughing about it, and he approved it." Mm-hmm.
So kind of, but no. And
he did. Mark Carney did apologize and said he didn't approve it. He talks out both sides of his mouth. One day he'll be talking to Trump, kissing his ass, having an orange tongue. The next day he's talking to the Canadian people, talking about we need to be tough as Canadians, and our new trading partner is going to be China.
Well, he talks out of both sides of his holes. Let's just put it that way. Rafa says, so New York's idea to fix the disaster that leftism has done is even more leftism, that they're really dumb, but I think they deserve it. I think just let him win, see the consequences, and let them live through it, and maybe learn, or maybe just double down and just forget that New York even exists.
There was another article I didn't grab. We're going to talk about the Mamdani scandal that's just happening next, but the other article I was reading is if Mamdani wins, it's expected up to 1 million New Yorkers, and these are the most wealthy New Yorkers, could flee the state. I know Florida is actively trying to get those people into the state, and that's because he's going to raise taxes. These socialist policies are going to disinfect the highest taxpayers by making them pay more taxes. Which they're just not going to do. They have the ability, because they have money, to leave the state, so they're going to take that opportunity to leave the state. And then you're going to be left with a bunch of socialists in a hellhole.
Mm-hmm. But they deserve it.
But then it's going to be even more hard for anybody to ever win in New York State, because the only people are left will be the socialists.
So, from the Daily Mail, who wants to put 1 million ads on each of their articles, explosive report claims a network of charities connected to George Soros funneled $40 million to support Zoran Mamdani's political rise in a tax dodging scheme.
And I'm going to use the bathroom real quick while you take over.
I don't do that to you. Sorry, everybody. I guess put questions in the chat while I do this. I might just read the article. Leave that blank. So Zoran Mamdani's campaign is facing explosive allegations that it benefited from tens of millions of dollars in donations funneled from George Soros-linked charities as part of an elaborate scheme that may have violated federal tax laws. Who's surprised? Nobody's surprised. And once again, as I've explained in Spanish mostly, I think, it's not that it's directly George Soros himself putting the money out there, but there is this network of charities and NGOs that are connected and receive money that is then used to funnel and to fund a lot of the political aims and gains that they want to do and that they want to see happen, especially in the States. It happened with a lot of district attorneys, and that was uncovered a while ago. Also with the No Kings protest, that was happening as well. Guy's back. The 34-year-old state assemblyman's team has always claimed that he rose from obscurity to become New York City's mayoral frontrunner thanks to an organic grassroots movement involving many small donations.
He claimed it was all volunteers, and it's the same thing at these liberal protests. You now see that the US AID was shut down. A lot of this money isn't going to the NGOs, and the NGOs can't pay the protesters. So the last No Kings protest was extremely small. Same thing is happening here. This money is being funneled in by NGOs, specifically George Soros. There were 6 different companies, all with the same board members, things like this, and they all funneled money into his campaign.
So the findings from conservative investigative site White Collar Fraud alleged that a network of tax-exempt organizations connected to billionaire financier Soros shrewdly coordinated political and ground operations to support Mamdani in a scheme that involved laundering more than $40 million in charitable donations through nonprofits and redirecting them into political activity.
And 1 second.
And all of this is also, if not fully, but pretty much linked to also groups like Antifa and etc.
Well, and it's the American people that are actually funding Mamdani, and not willingly. These 6 organizations actually got $53 million in grant money from the U.S. government, which is now being funneled into Zoran Mamdani's campaign through George Soros. George Soros is well known for getting these grants, funneling into these NGOs, and then directly funding programs that would disenfranchise the American people.
And Soros's group disputes, of course, the report's findings of improprieties, saying it is riddled with inaccuracies, false assumptions, and misinformation. The math isn't the only thing that doesn't add up. A spokesperson for Open Society Foundation, founded by Soros, now in charge of his 40-year-old son, told the Daily Mail the grants it cited, many of which were earmarked for specific projects and causes elsewhere around the country, as we have disclosed, were made years before the mayoral race even began. But white-collar fraud investigator Sam Antar told Daily Mail that Soros-affiliated entities may have violated federal tax laws. Antar has filed 11 whistleblower complaints with the IRS as a result of the investigation.
Yeah, Mamdani was supposed to be their new golden boy, kind of like Obama was, which is not only supposed to be Mamdani, but they're supposed to get this communist revolution that kind of comes up with this energy. People are hyped to what's going on. USAID has been cut off, so it's going to be hard in the future to fund the secondary and third candidates that are supposed to come in other states and possibly run for president. Mamdani himself can't run for president, but he was supposed to be instrumental in kind of this communist ideology, which was supposed to really energize the youth and spread across the United States. It doesn't look like it's going to work. It will work in Mamdani's case, but I think there was supposed to be a lot of candidates coming up from behind him, and I don't think that's going to be able to happen now.
And now we have an opinion of, I guess, just a man who speaks about deportations and illegal immigration. From Eric Doherty, this voter just dropped the mic on leftists who claim President Trump is going too far on deportations. My family has been here since the 1700s. No one gave us a free 14,000 debit card, a free apartment. We had to work for it. And let's see what he says. I guess you just chose it because it was interesting.
Well, it's very crucial that not only Black Americans, but minority Americans actually speak up and kind of put the left in their place, because they're not going to listen to all these normal Americans, I don't think.
The difference between being kind, and to me, my faith is one thing is being nice to people from different lands, but they also have to be respectful of our laws. And everybody wants to come to the United States because we have a great economy, have a lot of opportunity. But there's a process to do that. My family has been here since at least the 1700s. There's no one that's gave us a free $1,400 debit card. No one gave us a free apartment. No one gave us anything free. We had to work for it. So there is a process. And if we respect all people, that means that the people that come here need to respect our laws. And that's all that we're saying. We allowed 20 million immigrants in here legally since 2000. How much is too much? And how much are we going to put the burden on the taxpayers? Because the money has to come from somewhere. Yeah. It's just common sense.
So, Maria, I see you nodding.
And that was a very well-spoken black man. The problem is they're having a schism within the black community. You're having black females and black males with completely different ideology. The problem is black females kind of run the community right now. And I think it's going to be up to people like him to kind of step up, be well-spoken, and, you know, call it how they see it.
And now with California also doing the exact opposite. California has added again, we knew Dems would rig this election to cling to power. Demand audits now. This is exactly why mail-in ballots should be banned. And apparently California recall ballots found in felon's car in Torrance.
300 mail-in ballots for the governor's recall race were found inside a car parked at this Torrance 7-Eleven with a man sleeping inside of it.
So that's kind of the part where we're at now with this investigation is why were the ballots in his vehicle? What was his intent with those ballots?
It was an employee at the convenience store on Emerald Street near Hawthorne Boulevard that alerted police last Monday around 10:45 p.m. about the man sleeping in his driver's seat. And stolen ballots weren't all police found inside the car. There was Xanax, a gun, meth, and other mail.
He was arrested on several charges related to possession of the firearm, the narcotics, and some other charges as well.
Several agencies, including Torrance Police, the U.S. Postal Service, and the L.A. County District Attorney's Office, are now investigating how these stolen ballots ended up inside a convicted felon's back seat. Police say most of the ballots were for Lawndale residents and a few for Compton.
I mean, maybe he just stole a bunch of mail and they were part of the mail he stole.
But it looks like it was just mail-in ballots was the thing.
But he said and other mail.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. This is not the first case of this. There were other cases where people had lists of social security numbers registered online. We kind of showed this story the other day in California. You're able to register online to vote based upon the honor system. You just put your name and social security number in, and they'll mail all these ballots to somebody. Then all you have to do is go collect it. California is having a very important redistricting election right now, and it could give the Democrats within the state of California an unfair advantage in the next election. And it looks like they've done everything to kind of rig that election. The Republicans or Trump aren't going to be able to stop them in this particular election, but it's important going forward. They kind of changed the laws and they require voter ID.
And now we have, sorry, I need to change the playback speed. From the BBC apparently has, there's an investigation now where they are trying to show that the BBC doctored a Trump speech by making him appear to encourage the January 6th riots.
Yeah, this was actually making big news. And this isn't the first news network that has done this. Trump has won multiple lawsuits for shifty editing by CBC, MSNBC. NBC. So this is just another case of that. And this is an international news agency.
They played the following clip.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell.
But Trump didn't, in fact, say this at all. The BBC spliced together two clips that took place.
And you can tell when they spliced in Capitol instead of whatever he was going to say.
Well, and they add the scary music, and they emphasize certain words.
54 minutes apart. So let's go through it again.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you.
Now, see there, between Capitol and, that's a cut. Here's what Trump actually said.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
It's different. It wasn't until nearly an hour later that he then said the second part of the BBC's version.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol.
He does talk a lot.
And we fight. We fight like hell.
And this whole January 6th scheme they had ended up falling apart. I mean, not for the people that had to spend 2 years in prison without any charges being laid on them, but it did fall apart overall and it didn't work. But they had planted different explosive devices on the scene. And I think they were planning to make this thing a lot bigger than it was. The people just didn't fall into the trap, and there wasn't nearly as much violence as they kind of expected.
And another thing, and if you look it up on Wikipedia, it might be that you get only the left's version of what happened on January 6th. And that is because, and as the founder of Wikipedia, or co-founder, has been going around saying for now years, I believe, and criticizing how the turn it has taken towards the left. Now he is actually encouraging the use of Grokipedia, which is the X version or the Elon Musk version of Wikipedia.
Yeah, Wikipedia was actually taken away from the co-founder. So and he's been kind of blowing the whistle on this for a long time. You brought this up last time, so I thought I would get a clip of the interview on this episode.
Yes, so Wikipedia co-founder says Wikipedia will be left in the dust by Grokipedia. Ex-founder of Wikipedia, Larry Sanger, says. So let's watch what he says. And there's a good video about what actually happened to Wikipedia and how biased it is. And I tried to show it to a friend that's really on the left, and that person did not like it at all, that Wikipedia was being criticized and called a tool of the Clinton Foundation.
There are a lot of other things that are very promising about Grok. I actually gave the article that it wrote about myself a C. So I thought that it was very detailed. Now, it did use some things from Wikipedia. It does. And it does use that sort of LLM style, which is very annoying to me, actually. But the writing really isn't that bad. It's quite readable.
Well, sure. And it's also a few days behind, because they asked Grok 2 days ago when it came out that I was all over Arctic frost, is Alex Jones telling the truth, Grok, that he's targeted? Well, I realized later I've been given stuff a day before other people. It wasn't even out yet. So Grok said, no, it's not true. The next day, oh, yeah, it's all true. But then even after more came out, it still had kind of a couched response saying, well, yeah, Jones is in there, but we don't know why, even though in the documents it said why. So it's not God. It has some lag time.
Right, of course. And the neat thing that they're promising, they haven't implemented this yet, but you'll be able to actually talk with the Grok chatbot and say, can you fix this, or can you add this to the Grokipedia article? And it will. I actually experimented with that. It didn't actually add the factoid that I told it to add, but it said it would, when it became available. So they're promising to do
so I hope we can fix Wikipedia. That'd be great. But it sounds like innovation. If Wikipedia doesn't fix itself, I think it's a fair statement to say, disagree, you're the expert, but to me, if Wikipedia doesn't reform, it is going to be made obsolete because of things like Grokipedia.
It's possible. I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, I'm not saying that that's certainly the case, and this is actually becomes one of the main arguments now that I want to make for the 9 theses on Wikipedia. What I'm telling the Wikipedians now is, you guys need to get your act together, or you are going to be left in the dust by Grok. For one thing, they need to start allowing the use of primary sources, because Grokipedia is going to be trained on the primary sources, and if and when they have access to all of those library books and journals, it's game over. I mean, there's a lot of information there, and there will be orders of magnitude more articles. And
I was about to say, so far, AI is just kind of scooping social media. Imagine when it actually gets all that academic knowledge. Wow.
Okay, that's good.
And I don't love AI, and I've made that quite clear.
But I will say this: Wikipedia had been infiltrated by NGO money, who created fact-checking organizations that were extremely biased, and that's why you just cannot trust Wikipedia. And the real power of Grokipedia is not that it's this great new platform, but it's going to hold Wikipedia's feet to the fire and possibly force change.
Yes, you can trust Wikipedia. Wikipedia.
Why don't we go over to RUMBLE before you keep making fun of me?
Wikipedia. That's fine.
So we're going to head over to RUMBLE. If you're not yet subscribed, please do so. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers here, so we can monetize, and we'll see you over there in a minute.
Yes, RUMBLE, same channel name. See you in a second. Thank you, Walker and Fletcher and Rafa, for all your comments here on YouTube.
Oh, Rumble changed their logo back to the green one.
Yeah, you said Rumble again.
Oh, I thought